I think 4.5% chance of it happening after the first lottery ball was drawn. The Toronto Maple Leafs are selecting first overall again. And I got to tell you, this is sad because, of course, the number one feeling is you win a championship. But I think I've done this before on the show. I think Ennis and I once did a rankings of the most exciting things that can happen to you as a fan. Watching that draft lottery ball, that number 12, knowing there as you're chanting 12, 12, 12, either silently or out loud, and seeing that number pop up there, and the split second where you go, there's just no way that's real. And then, oh my God, that's 12. Did they get that right? 12 is the Leafs? Lucky number 12. Truly. How many people now love that number in this city? Okay, so there's a whole bunch of layers to this. But first of all, just what an exciting moment for a fan base that needed it. I got a billion tweets from Canucks fans and Bruins fans that were like, this is so undeserved and we're so mad. And did I say yesterday on the show, what did I want, baby? I wanted rig talk. I wanted people to be blasting me with this thing is rigged, this thing is fixed, and having a complete meltdown because that meant positive things for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they needed it. So, yeah, Canucks fans are doing their sob story about how nothing good ever happens to them, which is fair, right? Like, I probably would have felt the same way if the Maple Leafs were picking 6th, as in the Bruins were making their pick. I'm not even happy to see it to Canucks fans. I think that they're fine. You're going to get a good player at 3. And ultimately, this could potentially be a draft where you get the best player there. Who knows? But I forgot how stressful draft lotteries were. I'm sitting there pouring buckets. I'm losing. When that 4.5% hit, I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, this is really going to be this way. And here's what I would say is we did all this big think talk about, hey, is it better to have the pick this year or is it better to have it next year? And people went back and forth. I know every single one of you that was sitting on the, no, I'd rather have the pick next year take, was rooting for that lottery ball to shoot up there and show you number 12. I just know it. I know in the moment you went, nah, they need this pick. And again, to the Vancouver Canucks point, the nothing good ever happens to us and how Leaf fans were undeserved getting this thing or the Leafs were undeserved getting this thing. I don't really understand that logic. I can get how the Leafs had a real opportunity to win a Stanley Cup and that window looked like it frittered away. And this last year has been brutal. There's just no other way to put it. There were very, very, very few things that a Leaf fan could hang their hat on and say, yeah, I'm really pumped up about this. Yesterday, we're having discourse about what happens with Austin Matthews this offseason. We had, let's go back to the beginning. You get bounced by the Florida Panthers again. You get embarrassed in a Game 7. Mitch Marner leaves after he turns down a trade. And then we find out not only is he going to bury the market on the way out, but that he had pretty much made his decision around the Four Nations, that this is something that was a long time coming for him. The year starts off and it's painful. It doesn't look good. The roster never really coalesces. They deal with some injuries out of the gate. There's one minor bright spot during the December, Christmas to New Year's stretch. And then afterwards, it's just a slog. It's a pain. They're collecting some wins they probably shouldn't. They don't do very well at the trade deadline. Like the Nick Waugh deal aside, it's kind of viewed as a pretty big disappointment. They close a chapter on Scott Laughton that turns out to be, he gave up an unprotected first-round pick for a season and a half of, not even, like of a fourth-line guy who you didn't give enough of an opportunity to. And then you end up firing your general manager. There is turmoil and discussion about the new front office, and it ends up being a controversial pick, and people are just down in the dumps. Again, I try not to be a prisoner of the moment with this stuff, and I've lived through like the John Ferguson Jr. era. I remember the first year they made the Kessel trade, and knowing that the Bruins were going to end up with the second overall pick. Like there have been lowlights to Toronto Maple Leaf fandom. I didn't live through the Ballard years, but you know, this is probably not the worst it's been. But in terms of just people feeling, There was a notable shift from I'm done with this team, which is the thing that people say and do whenever the Leafs lose in the playoffs or get bounced from even contention, where it's your classic move. As it's a defense mechanism. I don't blame anybody for it. I've done it. I know most of my friends have done it. This was a little different. The messages that I was getting from people, the general tone of the fan base, it didn't feel very good. This is a new hope. This is a light in the darkness. This is something different to talk about. This is something positive that happened in this market. And I think it's reinvigorated a lot of people. So it's awesome. It changes the discourse. And here's what I would say about the draft. I'm going to have Bukala on in a second here. He's waiting on the line. I'm not Jason Bukala. I'm not a former director of amateur scouting. I'm not someone who does this professionally. I don't watch these kids all year round. I have put more attention into Gavin McKenna because, frankly, I'm from Whitehorse, Yukon. So there's like a personal stake that I have there that I want to see him go first overall for what it means to my community, what it means to kids there to believe differently. And knowing my upbringing, which was very much like by the time you're 8 or 9 years old, you maybe a little older than that, but you come to the realization that being a professional athlete is like you got as good of a shot at landing on the moon. So I root for that. I'm deeply invested in that. I want to see him succeed no matter where he ends up. But I've seen a lot of discourse that goes two ways. One is taking a defenseman first overall because of a need. And two is, do you trade out of the pick? And this is what I would say about those two things. Number one, I'm not drafting for positional need at number one. Whoever the best player is, that's who you take. You don't get cute with this. Whoever is the best player, and I'm not talking about like first-year impact. I'm not talking about, who do you think is the most talented, special player, irreplaceable player, or ungettable player in this draft, franchise-changing player? That's who you take first overall. You don't go, well, this team hasn't had a defenseman. Oh, this team need, like that to me is crazy talk. Best available, first overall, unquestionable. Whoever that is, I know who I think it is because it's been 2 years of talking about him, and we've gotten cute and started to pick through his flaws and tried to change this discussion a little bit, even though what we saw in the second half at his college, where he just has eviscerated all of that team's rookie record, like whatever. Take the best guy available. I'm not saying who that is. I have my opinion, but for the Toronto Maple Leafs, best guy you think, that's who you're taking. Trade down, also no. The only way you trade down is if you think you're getting that best player at numbers 2 or 3 and you're involving one of those other teams. There's a reason why it hasn't been done since, I think, Marc-Andre Fleury or Rick Nash, one of those two. But that happened like back-to-back years in 02, 03, where the first overall picks got flipped out, obviously famously with the Sedins as well. But yeah, like someone traded the first overall pick that ended up being Guy Lafleur. And I just don't think you take that risk. I think you identify who the best player is, you move forward with that. The only way you trade down is if you can do something where you know almost conclusively your guy is going to be available at 3. You're not moving too far down. But I just think that's a risk not worth taking in a league that how many times do we have to do this in terms of Stanley Cups for first overall guys, the impact of first overall guys. You make that pick, you make it right, and it changes your franchise forever. Jason Bukala is the founder of the Pro Hockey Group. He's the former director of amateur scouting for the Florida Panthers. He is my close personal friend up until yesterday evening when I watched him go on Hockey Night in Canada and say bad things, say wrong things. But it's okay. I will discuss it, right? I'll discuss it. Jason Bukala now. What's up, brother?
That is not true.
It hurt me so deep. It hurt me. Of all the text messages, for you not to think of me in that moment hurt throughout the year.
It was quite a night, wasn't it? No doubt about that. And you know, I sit here and I listen to your soliloquy as I'm having my morning Java, and there's nobody more passionate and invested in this between you and Sammy McKee, who's hauling off on a dart after men's league hockey last night. I mean, it's just fantastic. You two, it's awesome. I love it. I love the passion.
I think it's something that, again, I outlined it, but this fan base needed it right now, and I get Canucks fans being sour. Also, I didn't even mention this, but finding out that Boston doesn't get this pick now for 2 years, and knowing the timelines of a guy like Pastrnak, who I think is going to be like 34 by the time that pick comes around, and just how that kind of reshapes things for the Bruins, that was a delightful little piece of this as well. Not having them get to pick 6th overall in a pretty loaded top 7, top 8. I don't know where you kind of tear it off at, but let's just start with this. Yesterday you went on, you were on Hockey Night in Canada, and you discussed what you would do with the 1st overall pick. And you do not have Gavin McKenna 1st overall. And so let's dig into that. Let's put this as a 2-part question. One is, why do you have Stenberg 1? And then 2 is, do you think that's actually what the Leafs are going to do?
Yeah, that's well positioned. So the reason that I have Stenberg 1 is the fact that I don't believe, if all things were equal. So let's look at it this way, because there's a lot of people throwing around the fact that McKenna was at college hockey and what he did in junior hockey the year before that. Stenberg is out of sight, out of mind a lot more compared to McKenna, just because he's playing in Sweden. Mm-hmm. To score the way that he did in the Swedish Elite League this year, the top pro league in Sweden, it's historical. The Sedin twins were the last ones to come close to those numbers, and he's in that type of territory. The thing of this here, JD, is that he's a play driver. He's a complete player who will kill penalties. He's a leader. He's been a captain on the national stage. He's won World Juniors. Anybody who watched the World Juniors for Sweden last Christmas, they can surely appreciate the value of this player and everything that he does exceptionally well. He's not as dynamic as quick strike as Gavin McKenna offensively. He's different. He's more compact. He's more sturdy. He's going to be in the fight more physically. That's just the way that he's programmed. And he's gonna be a complete player at the NHL level. So he's gonna kill penalties as well as drive play and create offense. Now, having said that, I believe still that Gavin McKenna is going to score more than Ivor Stenberg at the NHL level. I don't know how much more, but he's going to score more. If you look back, if I'm looking at it from a Toronto Maple Leafs lens, when they went through the last rebuild, if you will, when Austin Matthews came on the scene, obviously Mitch Marner, everybody's talking about, well, we need to get another Mitch Marner type to complement Austin Matthews. And to your point with Pasternak just a second ago, Matthews has got a couple of years left on this deal. And before you know it, he's been in the National Hockey League 12, 13 years before, one of these two players really starts to hit, if you will, like really be the best version of themselves at the NHL level. So I'm not really so much interested in that part of it as I am what's the next version of the top 6 forward group going to look like, and what's going to be different. Well, what have we complained about in the past when the Leafs have not had success in playoffs? We've complained about guys who haven't had that fortitude or that secondary battle to do positive things in playoffs, the hardest time of the year. And the bottom line for me is I think McKenna is going to be an exceptional player. I really do. I just trust the trajectory of Stenberg more. I don't think his scoring is going to be that far off that it's going to be problematic for me to digest. And then on top of that, he's going to be more buttoned up and harder to play against and more complete in all facets of the game. And that's the trump card for me for now. And I don't say that lightly because I value both these players I really value these two players. As a matter of fact, I really value Caleb Malhotra, who I have number 3 on my list as a centerman. I really value him too. Character, size, complete player as well, can be used in all situations. So splitting hairs is the best way to put it, but I'm sticking to my guns on this one, pal. I've seen enough over a long period of time.
So let me just play devil's advocate for some things here, right? Because again, Stenberg, you look at the Swedish Hockey League, and I think it's like 35 points in 40-some games. Or, yeah, 33 and 43. Yeah, like the production is there. We did see the World Juniors. And to your point about being a more complete player, I think that at this point of their careers, that is kind of undeniable, right? Just because of the situational play that one guy is involved in versus the other. My counter to it would be, for me, when you're drafting 1st overall, I want the highest ceiling play as well. I want the most talented player. And what I see right now in the NHL with that quick strike offense is where the game is trending and how much harder it is to get those guys who are one of ones when it comes to their offensive talent. And for a kid who scored 51 points in 35 games in collegiate hockey and who had the second half that he did, if there are defensive warts there, my question to you would be, and like, again, I'm not, like, I don't watch these guys as much as you did. My question would be, what is harder to develop? somebody who has that playmaking ability, that vision, that anticipatory play, and that stick handling ability that Gavin McKenna has, or the defensive side that a guy like Stenberg brings?
Yeah. So defense, it's a great point by you, because defense is a choice. It really is. Like, think about it. Anybody can defend. You get checkers, you get guys who came out of major junior hockey who have to reinvent themselves when they get to the National Hockey League and become checkers because there's no room in the top six. They're not elite enough, despite the fact that they're elite at the junior level. So that's a choice. Absolutely, it's a choice. But I don't think we're talking about an athlete that's that far off, is my point. And like, I don't know that there's going to be a wrong answer to this. And I honestly liken it back to when I was in Florida, when we drafted Barkov and we got him 2 and McKinnon went 1. Are the two of us going to sit here today? We would both agree that they're different players. And if you look at their trajectory out of the box, even, it was a slow burn for McKinnon before he hit, and Barkey has always kind of played to the same identity. And if Barkov if he cheated the game, he'd be a 100-point guy, but he doesn't. He plays the game a certain way, and we value that then. There was no wrong answer there then, is what my response would be. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. You can definitely coach up a kid to buy in defensively. Again, that's a choice. There's absolutely no question about that. That's a choice. So you would probably win out on that argument, to be honest with you, to be fair to you. But still, I'm not buying the stock that if they changed places this year, and it's kind of obscene because it's not fair. What you're positioning here is who's the best player now and later. You want to know who's the best player 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be splitting hairs. We're going to look back at these two for a long time and say that they're both really, really good picks and really good NHL players. They're just going to be different. My taste is Stenberg still, and I don't think that the offense is going to be that far off from that. I really believe that this guy's going to be able to drive a line as a winger. And by the way, his hockey IQ and the way that he approaches a game, you see these guys come into the league who are centermen and they got to play wing for the first couple of years just because it's the NHL. It's hard. It's a heavy lift. I think that Stenberg has the IQ and the ability to play the middle in time too, if tasked with that. And that matters to me too, because I don't think McKenna can do that. But again, we can go in circles here with this discussion. And, I'm going to go by my body of work and what I've seen for forever. Now, listen, McKenna's second half of the year was obscene in the NCAA. It was fantastic. It really was. But let me put this to you. Let me ask you a question. Yep. And I said this on Hockey Night in Canada last night. You remember the 8-point game that he got a lot of attention for, which is awesome, against Ohio State. That same 10-game segment, JD, because as you know, I talk both, whether we're here or we're out having a pint and something to eat together, we talk about, approach, and we argue back and forth, we banter. Well, I do things in segments, and in that same 10-game segment, he had 18 points and he was a -3 in the 10 games. And Stenberg was like 6 points or 5 points, and he was a +6 in that same 10-game segment at the pro level. Okay. So, that's what I mean. It's going to be, if you take that 8-point game out of there, you see where I'm going with this. Like it's like, it's one of those things, and that's part of the process that you have to digest.
Yeah. My counter to that would be, I think in 11 of the last 12 games, Connor McDavid has been a minus.
Yeah.
In his last 12 playoff games. And
right.
would anyone argue that they would not want to have Connor McDavid more than any other player on planet Earth, including with 1 foot, which he was playing with in that postseason?
Yeah.
I would say no.
Of course not.
It's that I don't want to say that there's no value into thinking that. My point would simply be, when I'm picking first overall, my personal philosophy, not as a scout, just as someone who watches all professional sports and sees kind of how these things develop. What is the most unique and talented player, the most difficult thing to come across? And if you were asking me, can I get a penalty killing winger who is an 80-point guy? I would say, I feel like I can get that at some point in my life. But can you get a special one-of-one offensive talent to the degree that Gavin McKenna is going to bring you? That anticipatory play that you just don't really see. That ability off the rush that is very, like, honestly, how many guys in the AHL right now do you think are going to develop into what Gavin McKenna has right now? The last 2 years of pedigree. I think that there is a different layer of toughness to him than there have been with some of the guys that are comparable to him, like the Mitch Marners of the world, who do get that. Like, I think to compete on McKenna, the upbringing of McKenna is materially different than some of those other guys, and it should factor into this. Also, the pressures of what he's had as someone who's been projected to be a first overall pick for 2 years, who's been in the shadow of his cousin, Connor Bedard, for quite some, I just don't want this situation, Books, that the Leafs end up with a very good player first overall, who no one quibbles with, is a longtime guy in the league. But then I'm watching Team Canada's future line in Macklin Celebrini and Gavin McKenna play together for the next 15 years, and people going, yeah, these two are going to walk into the Hall of Fame together because they won multiple Stanley Cups, and this guy emerged as the best player of the draft.
Yeah, that's the risk of this type of decision making. And you have a bias because over here, and it's an
Of course
acceptable
I do.
bias. You guys have a bias, or people in Canada have a bias because they see what they see over here much more, and that's fine.
Definitely.
There's absolutely no problem with that. This is not a penalty killing winger. This is not that. This is a first line,
Mm-hmm.
Demidov like player, but offensively, but who also plays responsible defense. And I'm not saying that Demidov doesn't do that. He's evolving that way too. But you understand what I'm saying to you here,
course.
JD? Like we're let's not miss the trees for the forest. Let's not discount his offense. And he's right now. And I guess the beautiful part of this process is that there's still runway left. Remarkably, there's still runway left before we get to Buffalo in June. McKenna's opted out, or between him and Team Canada, they made a decision that he's going to prepare for the combine, which I think is, that's fine, no problem. What I'd like to see him at the World Championships,
Yeah, me too.
absolutely. Selfishly,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a scout, right? Like I want to see him play again on that stage if I could. You're going to see Stenberg and maybe even Bjork and Lundell, by the way, these three young Swedes. But really, Stenberg, you're going to see him, I think, at the World Championships play an elevated role for Sweden. And maybe at that point, you might have a little bit more comfort
Mm-hmm.
in what I'm trying to describe to you, because that recency bias, that extra layer of viewing, will hopefully put your mind at ease. In the preliminaries here leading up to the World Championships, he's played 3 games. He's a point a game with the men's team, the national team, and we'll see where that goes here. But listen, let's not lose focus. What a fortunate turn of
Huge.
events. What a fortunate turn of events. This could have went horrendously wrong, and it almost did. It's like Russian roulette a little bit, isn't it? And the Boston Bruins could have been staring at something at 6, and it fell the Leafs' way. And John Chayka and Matt Sundin, what a whirlwind 24 hours those guys have experienced already here in Toronto.
What a tilt, just in terms of narrative from one day to the other.
It's absolutely, you can't make it up, man. It's actually a documentary. It's a movie.
You can't beat Toronto. It really is. This is like draft day level. That movie with Kevin Costner, of just the narrative shift that ends up happening with this one. So there's also this conversation. Well, actually, I want to bring you in on both, because the two things that I said before you came on, which is the idea of trading down, but then also the defenseman, because that is, people would look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and say, JD, who's the last great defenseman that you've ever watched play on this team? I would go, They would say, who's the guy that they drafted and developed and that you got to watch and say, hey, this is your best guy. Why not take a defenseman? First of all, how do you stack them? But secondarily, you just said you had Malhotra as your number 3. That sounds like to me, if the Leafs did go D at 1, it would be a reach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no need to go D at 1. And I know, because they're not, back to the discussion we had 3 minutes ago, the defenseman is not the best player in the draft. So I mean, these three forwards are the best players in the draft for me. And so you go to Malhotra in the 3 hole. If they decide that they absolutely covet a right shot defenseman, for example, a Chase Reed or a Keaton Verhoff, I actually think that Carson Karls, who's a left shot T, is ahead of those 2 guys for me right now. And that doesn't really, that doesn't equate, right? So I don't see the trade down. I will say this, though, because I've been there. We drafted Ekblad 1, we drafted Barkey 2. I know that the phone is going to be ringing. I've experienced it, and the offers will be coming your way. And those offers will include not only draft capital, but potential roster players, depending on who you're dealing with. You just can't. I can't fathom them going going down to, 4 even, and calling Carson Carls in relation to Stenberg or McKenna. I don't see that. Even if it meant that they got a first rounder this year, or you flipped your first round picks this year and you got another first back next year, which would be fantastic. I understand that. I don't see that. You're gonna have to deal with the reality of your situation. Let's put it to you this way. They were dealt a hand that almost went sideways. Now they're fortunate enough to get first overall. The rest of it, they still have to deal with later. So you have to live in the now, which is, let's make sure we get the best player in the organization sooner than later and get them on the clock. The other thing here, JD, is that Stenberg and McKenna are late birthdays. So in
Mhm.
relation to the Verha, and so's Chase Reed. So in relation to the Carls and the Verhoffs, for example, those guys have an extra year, sort of months at least, almost a year of development ahead of them compared to those other guys who are older. So
Mhm.
the arrival of a McKenna and a Stenberg, I think Stenberg goes right to the NHL next year, for example.
Mhm.
So and McKenna, I think that's to be determined. It's going to be depending upon what he does at the combine, and people are going to look at his weight and his strength, and because that he's going to be contested,
Yep.
heavily contested physically, right? So Stenberg, he's durable right now. He can do that. McKenna, I'm sure that after development camp, they'll make that decision in July. But yeah, buddy, I just don't see how. I'm going to present it today in an article, the options to trade down, and people can digest it as a reality. But I think you and I both agree that you got to swing at the top here. You got to
Correct.
make it happen.
Yes. And what the way that it sounds that you're saying it is 1 and 2, there's a debate. But after that, there's a significant enough drop off that you cannot draft for any kind of positional need in one of these top 2 slots. That because again, Malhotra being a centerman, the next 3 to 4, maybe depending on how you feel about Smiths, are all going to be defensemen. That if you were to make a pick that involves any of those players, it would be a mistake it would be pretty much unjustifiable from a talent standpoint.
I don't know if it's unjustifiable when it comes to Maholtra, and they're all gonna slide in talent wise. Like as soon as we start getting the right shot D and stuff like
Mhm.
that, it's oh man, it's so debatable because now you're looking through your crystal ball and you're saying, okay, and you and I sit here at trade deadline. Let's just say this on trade deadline or mid-season trade acquisition, when you've got a right shot defenseman who's a stud,
Of course.
these guys are heavily coveted. Like they're overpaid generally, and everybody wants one. I don't know that there's a huge drop off to Maholtra, but there is. And then after that, there's certainly another tier, and that's I'm not right now, as I sit here today, interested in that tier. I'm really comfortable with McKenna and Stenberg, and then Maholtra would be a discussion. I'd be open to that discussion, but something coming back the other way would absolutely have to blow me away. And I mean, like, it would have to be include, for an example, if I traded down to 3 and I was with Maholtra, I'd be over the moon. I'd be really happy. But I'd also need now a top prospect coming back from the other side, a right
Mhm.
shot D. Like now I'm going through their depth charts and I'm saying, okay, but I need this right shot D as well,
Mhm.
because I'm going to draft Maholtra. Now I want that right shot D. I need 2 assets for sure that are going to play in the top 4 on the back end and the top 6 on the front end.
Well, and if you look at it through that lens, Vancouver, who's in a rebuild, they're not giving up more assets to move up the draft board, right? Like it's like if you're talking about just how something like this would work, that's probably not one of the teams that you're even discussing. So you got to look at other spots, excuse me, in the draft to be trading down potentially even further than that, which then gets it even more risky. But it sounds like to me you have it then with the defenseman. Carroll's actually 1, Reed 2, Verhoff 3 with
No,
what?
I'm actually going Carl's. And again, people are going to disagree with this, but I'm going Carl's, Verhoff, Reed with this. But I'm right on the fence with Reed and Verhoff because they are different. I just think that Verhoff,
Mhm.
at his size and his age, and the fact that he went to college hockey, and what he did in college hockey this year, JD, 6 tucks and whatever he had,
Hmm.
20 assists or something like that. What he did as a 17-year-old defenseman, right shot D, that's historical too. Like there's only been 2 or 3 guys that have ever done what he did at the college level this year as a right shot D, and he had 21 goals last year in Victoria. Like if he plays in the dub this year, what do you think we're looking at in relation to him
Yeah.
compared to Reed offensively, right? So I think that I'm still going Verhoff there. I see a lot of Aaron Ekblad and Keaton Verhoff, and so I have to stick to my guns on that one too. But again, like that's a good problem to have. If he came off the board, it would go to Reed, and then after that, believe it or not, I'm starting to get into Vigo Bjork territory in Sweden as well. So
Mm.
lots to dissect that way. Daxon Rudolph. But here's your disturber. There's a couple of disturbers here, like Daxon Rudolph who's playing out in PA in their WHL finals right now. How do you like this guy? 6'2", 210 pounds, had 38 goals, over 100 penalty minutes, and was like plus 53 on the year.
Mm.
Like, how do you like that guy? Like, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And
Hmm.
he's a right shot D. So, that's a guy that's going to fall, right around 7 or 8, probably. Maybe he gets up to 5 or 6. I don't know. But these are the nice problems to have for people below now the Toronto Maple Leafs.
So here's the last one I'll ask you, because again, you know some of these principles involved. Like you spent a lot of time in the year. This is what you do for a living, or sorry, in the league. This is what you do for a living. What do you think Mark Leach covets?
Lychee, well, it's a changing of the guard. So
Hmm.
for me, Lychee is going to absolutely go for the best player. And I've been on the draft floor sitting right beside the Dallas table when they've plucked Jason Robertson 1 pick ahead of us when we had him next on our draft list, and we've gone toe to toe with sort of the same thought process, I guess you would say, if with our drafting. And I think Lychee is going to value just like me, the best player. If my gut tells me though, my gut tells me that he is going to value the guy who's going to be more dependable and push back more physically on top of the pedigree. So I think he might value Stenberg, but I don't know that for sure. And you
Sure.
got a changing of the guard there, John Chayka might he's going to have a say in this, and this is a big deal for John Chayka and Matt Sundin. This is their first swing at it, and they got first overall. Like you can't afford to make a mistake here, right? We
Nope.
would all agree with that, and they're not going to. They're not going to make a mistake because I don't think a mistake is part of the equation. But the Sundin might know Stenberg more than
Well, that
anybody.
was my next question. Was like, Sundin, when he came over, he is talking, like, pretty much part of his preamble with how he can contribute to this hockey team was a lot of discussion about culture. But it isn't lost on me in this moment that he spent a lot of time discussing how he spent time watching prospects overseas. I'm guessing he's very familiar with this kid. I don't know if he has a relationship with this kid, but I can't see him not having a voice in the decision. And if he does have one, he's going to probably know him fairly intimately, and that, yeah, his voice could end up mattering in this decision. And so I know I'm not, like, you're not saying I know he's going to take this pick, or that they're going to get this right. They're going to take all these things into account. But if you believe, based on your experience of knowing Mark Leach, that he would probably trend to picking a guy like this, and then you add in the factor of having a Matt Sundin in the room making an impact on this hockey club, I would think that that would lean towards more of the Stenberg pick as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in Leachy's mouth, because he
I
might
know.
have they might have a whole different strategy now in Toronto. I'm just, if him and I were having, he'd have a glass of red wine and I'd have a pint, and I think we'd argue back and forth. It's kind of like the way we are right now, the two of us.
Yep.
But Stenberg played in Djurgården, JD, and right there in Stockholm, and Matt's his place was 10 minutes away from the rink there. I'm sure that he spent a little bit of time at Djurgården and watched them, but that's a good problem. Let's not discount that as a bias. Let's approve that as a nice problem to have, because any extra viewings the new executive had in the past as he arrives in Toronto, that's a bonus. That's
Mhm.
an that's an absolute bonus. So if he has intimate knowledge on Stenberg, and added value, extra layers there, then that's good for their process as well. And we'll just see how it all plays out. Stenberg will come to the combine after the World Championships. I'm sure he won't test He'll meet with all the top end teams, not a lot of them because it's not going to matter. And so will McKenna, and we'll see what the personality projects in Buffalo.
Books, you're the man. Thanks for doing this, brother. Appreciate you, and we'll be catching up and doing this discussion many more times ahead of the draft.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, especially after World Championships, right? So everybody just keep sort of an open mind, please, but be very excited for the moment. And you settle down, JD. You settle down, okay? No more blowing me up at 10:30 at night and whatever else.
No more saying things I don't like then. Jason Bukala of the Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet, and of course, former director of amateur scouting for the Pats. See you, buddy. Quick break. My buddy Sam McKee next.
Running a business in Canada? Name even one thing you love about your bank. I'll wait. Thought so. Meet Float. Built in and for Canada, Float gives you fast access to corporate cards, bill payments, foreign exchange, and expense tools made for this century. Oh, and did we mention up to 4% interest on your balance? Turns out there is something to love. It's just not your bank. Get started in as little as 24 hours at floatfinancial.com.
Toronto has a new home for Black creativity. The NIA Centre, Canada's first professional multidisciplinary arts center devoted to Black artists and communities. A place where ideas dance, sing, and paint themselves into being. Where imagination is free to grow and creativity is celebrated in every form. Open to the public in the heart of the city, inviting everyone to see, to feel, to be inspired. From Little Jamaica to the world, NIA Centre is where stories, dreams, and voices come alive. What will you create here? NIA Centre, where art makes culture.
Great goal! Let's go to Dave at the bench.
Oh, what a shot, Gord. Last time we spoke, you had been really tired. Not anymore.
Yeah, snoring all night. Losing sleep ruins your game.
Problem snoring? Suffer from sleep apnea? Invest in yourself. Call Dr. Paulette Pillersdorf. She'll use her laser to help treat your snoring and oral appliance like a sports mouth guard for your sleep apnea. Your partner will thank you.
Thanks, Gord.
Book your appointment with Dr. Paulette Pillersdorf. Call 647-243-2006.
You know what doesn't happen at 3 a.m.? Good decisions. Tossing, turning, stacking pillows, trying to get comfortable again. That's why a Leva Sleep adjustable bed is a better bed. Better for your back, better for your breathing, better for actually staying asleep. With the touch of a button, find your perfect position and keep it. Better your nights when you better your bed. Visit one of our Leva Sleep showrooms or levasleep.com. Leva Sleep, the better bed.
Whenever you're ready.
When one premium hot dog just won't do, why not have two? Ba-da-da-da.
Not this again. We need to make it clear that the new premium hot dogs at St. Louis Bar and Grill are all you can eat.
When one premium hot dog just won't do, why not have a few? Ba-da-da-da.
All you can eat premium hot dogs are now at St. Louis Bar and Grill for just $14.99. Why not enjoy it with a Budweiser? Dine-in only, taxes extra. There's always room for more.
Ba-da-da-da.
Ontario Corps is calling you. Join a group of volunteers committed to protecting your community. Proud to step up and stand together in times of crisis, facing down severe storms, floods, and doing what's right to keep your neighbors safe. When the next emergency comes, are you ready to make a difference for Ontario? Answer the call. Volunteer with Ontario Corps. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. That's ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada.
ZipRecruiter. Enjoy $5 plus tax McValue breakfast meals at McDonald's every day. Like a sausage McMuffin or breakfast burrito with a hash brown and a small coffee. Only $5 every day. Plus taxes. Available until 11 a.m. at Canadian restaurants. Product availability varies. Prices exclude delivery.
Questioning your team's coaching strategy? We get it. Questioning your own investment strategy? We got you. Cooperators can help you make a stronger game plan for your financial future. Cooperators. Get investments, insurance, and advice from someone who gets you. Terms and conditions apply.
Property managers, stop chasing your cleaners and start seeing results. MediClean has 40 years of experience servicing Toronto's premier facilities. Reliable, professional, and proven. Get your no-obligation quote today at mediclean.ca.
Hi, it's Fido. Pro tip, we've got affordable 5G plans that fit your budget. You can say hello to speeds of up to 1 gigabyte per second on our Canada-wide 5G network, so you can browse, stream, and stay connected. Plus, select plans have international calling to 27 countries. Already with Fido, you'll automatically get access to 5G at no extra cost. So don't take slow for an answer. Check out our affordable 5G plans at fido.ca now. Fido, at your side.
It's game day. Blue Jays baseball brought to you by Crown Rust Protection, your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center. Today at 1 on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
My co-host on Leafs Talk and friend Sam McKee. Brother, what a shift. We already did 2 phone calls, but yeah, just
my heart is so warm this morning, man. I'm thinking about my fellow brothers and sisters in Leaf Nation who have just been in the dumps, bud.
Yeah.
Dumps. It's just been as dumpy as it gets around here. And just to have that swing in emotion for myself, man. I woke up today being like, maybe it will be okay. Leafs got a full draft class coming up here where they have the first overall pick included. It's an amazing swing. And I can only imagine what John Chaika and Matt Sundin are feeling. Talk about a bounce, bud. Holy crap.
Dude, that Sundin smile.
Oh my God. I've watched that clip 100 times. The amount of edits I've watched this morning, McKenna edits to Drake songs.
Yeah.
I'm just firing, bro. The new Iceman's here. I'm firing.
I just talked to Books. And you know this. I've talked about this with you a billion different times. So I'm not convinced McKenna's going to be the pick. In fact, if I'm going to bet it, I don't know what the betting line is right now. I haven't looked at it. I probably should have jumped on it earlier, but I'm definitely not betting McKenna to go first. It is kind of a win-win for me in the sense of I think McKenna will go second to the Sharks and get to play with Macklin Celebrini, and I get to have a second team. I'll be honest.
A second team?
Well,
that's your first team.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
I gotta say, it's it's toss up. I already do love Macklin Celebrini. I do have an actual history with the Sharks. My uncle being a season ticket holder and me going down there to games as a kid.
And you have a sick Carhartt hat that my wife bought you when she was at the rink.
From the arena. That although every time I wear it on the show, people hammer me in the comments about it. And I'm just like, okay, I just can't do this. I just get crushed.
You ever heard of fashion?
Yeah. But can I do some confession time? Because this is ultimately huge.
Please.
I do have the double. I have 2 types of scaries with the Gavin McKenna investment, right? One is that if he came here and it didn't work out, and it being the UConn kid and I got to cover him somehow with a credible lens, or I just got to abandon and be a pro, that's tough to do. But then 2 is I just can't shake the feeling that I outlined to Books is they pass on him and he goes to San Jose, and every 4 Nations we watch and every Olympics that we watch for the next 20 years is just, and the Celebrity McKenna line comes back over the boards. These guys have incredible chemistry together. 4 Stanley Cups for the San Jose Sharks, and us sitting there being like, you could have had them, and then having to do the cope of it would have been different here. It would have been the same. That is. I'm very excited. I'm not trying to spin any of this as a negative, but it's the scaries are in my head with this thing now. That's where we're at.
This is not a way to build a drafting strategy. And the way that you've listened to Chaika talk a lot over the last little while, he's clearly, a very methodical and planned out guy. But my strategy, if I'm in that room, it's you're just not going to get killed if you take McKenna first overall. If it doesn't work out, you can at least be he was the consensus for 2 years. He was the most talented guy in the draft. He was the Canadian guy that played for the World Juniors, was great. All these different things. My input would be is the downside of taking him first and having it not work out. yeah, that sucks. But passing on him and taking Ivar or one of the defensemen or whoever it is,
Book
and
said
then
they're
having
not taking
McKenna
a D.
become a stud, it's just, it can't be. The difference in swing there, that's the scary part for me. Like, that's why I'd be such a coward. I'd just be taking the number one guy that's been talked about as the number one guy forever, especially in this market where if you pass on McKenna, and like you said, he's got the 1-2 punch down the middle, or with McKenna there. With Macklin Celebrini there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a strategy, but the fear. My strategy is fear, is what I'm saying here.
Yeah, we do have fears. Gotta tell you,
Fear.
so,
I'm a draft strategy. Fear.
So yeah, dude,
We
these talk could have been called
boy.
two cowards.
We need the Canadian boy. Like,
Yeah.
just, God love Matthews and Willie, and I know Tavares came home, but it's like, you need the homegrown Canadian boy that can grow up in this market and be like the stud and be the star, and potentially one day, if he comes in, he's great. He can be the captain, all this different stuff. Like, just take the Canadian.
Well, so again, I'm not well-versed enough on all these prospects, but I did just talk to Bukala, and like, he basically outlined the notion that they're not going defense at one. It's not a tier that's with these other two guys. It's not even a tier that he views it with Malhotra. And I've been making this case to everybody and listen, thank you to everybody that sent messages yesterday. Like, I got a billion, hey, are you doing emergency pod? I knew I was having you on. You were down at the rink. It was like, okay, we were going to do this show today. I got a million messages that were like, trade down, and I got a million messages that were like, don't you have to take a D? And it's like, no, you just got to take the best player available, okay?
Yes,
like, this is just, don't overthink it. Don't try to big brain it. I get that if you're a Leaf fan, you've never seen a puck-moving defenseman, a transporter, you get enamored by the Chase Reed stuff. I understand it. I do. And part of me considered it as well. But it's like, no, if you've got two guys at the top of the draft materially more talented than the rest, you just don't overthink that. But what I would say is, like, where I was going with that is, I'm not an expert on all these guys, but, I follow Gavin McKenna's career fairly closely. That is not a kid who is afraid of the spotlight at all. Like, this is not someone who I think would come to a big market in Toronto and wilt in any way under the pressure. Like, he is that guy.
He wants it.
He
wants it.
He loves it, man. Like, he's not doing the Conor McGregor thing because he's trying to show out to fans. He's doing that because that's who he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he just seems to have an undeniable amount of swagger where that video, of course, of him doing the Conor McGregor thing is unbelievable. But just every situation I've ever seen him in his demeanor and the way he talks. And, like, if you potentially pass on that guy and having him go number 2 and having him be like, the chip on his shoulder and always have that vendetta against the Leafs, like, this just, I just don't think there's a world where they do it. Like, I know the Matt Sundin connection to Stenberg, and I listened to the press conference after they picked last night, and I think it was Dave McCarthy asked him potentially about Stenberg and having him be in his backyard. And just the way he talked about him was a little bit spooky, I would say. Like, the fact that he's watched this kid closely, and the way he said his first name, I'm like, oh God. Maybe they are going to take him. But I don't think you can mess around with this when there's a guy with the skill level at the top with Gavin McKenna. Like, you can't mess around here and get cute. And I really don't think they will. I don't think, already with the perception from the fan base and the way people are already kind of penciling McKenna in and talking about McKenna and the conversations around McKenna, I just think it'd be too big a risk for a brand new front office to pass on him. Don't you? Like, the risk is just too high.
The thing is, the way that Books talks
It'd be different if it was 2 or 3, bud, but it's the first overall pick. Like, you just have to take the guy that everybody, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really, like, I know Chaika's a forward-thinking risk guy, but that risk is just way too high for me.
But they also,
it's terrifying.
I think that the way it's being told to me is that clearly McKenna is the highest upside guy in the draft. But in talking to Books about it, it's like, we're going to watch Ivar. That's how Ivar. Yeah. That's how
Matt said it. Yeah.
At the World Championships. And he's going to look like an NHL ready guy. And
McKenna's not going now, which sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. And it's funny because they were like, he's going to focus on the combine. And a big part of me goes, this actually feels like the best possible way for you to prepare is to go
focus on playing with Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah. Although, yeah, that's where it's like the Sharks go.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah, just let us keep that.
Come to Toronto.
Keep it a little secret. I'm not. I know people are gonna think that I'm just lying, but there is. I do think that there's like I'm very open minded to the idea of Stenberg being the best player in the draft, and if they believe that down in their bones, if Mark Leach and Matt Sundin and John Chaika sit in a room and they say we think this guy's gonna be the best, then take Stenberg 1. That's just where I'm at with it. Like if that's it, I'm gonna trust the process on this one and. Then I'll rip it for the rest of my life.
I was gonna say, Mr. Trust the Process, Daryl Morey over here.
I got it. But I reserve the right.
The second they take Evar, my phone will light on fire with you calling it.
Yeah. I'm just saying on there. Okay, let's do a little moment talk because so I've already said this, but that's the stress level of when it went to 4.5. The way, like, that first lottery ball pops out, they show the board, and they're like, I can't remember I think it was a good move for Vancouver. Yeah, Kraken.
It was
Vancouver.
good move for, Vancouver was good, and then the second ball was Kraken. I was like, that was the spot that we were fighting to get out of.
Same.
Don't let that happen.
Yes, and I'm sitting there, and they draw it out. Like, they really torture you.
The commercial break, I was sitting in York Canlan pad 2 on my phone, sitting there, and I literally yelled out loud, commercial?
Yeah.
I was so mad.
I had to flip anxiety-wise back to the Blue Jays game to kill the time because I couldn't even watch it. And I was doing the thing where I'm trying to time it out to be like, I'm just going to come back maybe a second late so it's over. But I came back a second early, and they're doing the discussion on the broadcast, and it's 12 for the Maple Leafs, and you're looking at the thing, and you see the lottery ball shoot up there, and you can see plain as day it's 12.
It's 12, yeah.
But in it's a split second where I'm freaking out going, oh my God, that's 12, but also thinking they've made a mistake. It's going to be a mistake. they're not actually 12. Bucci Gross is going to be like, so sorry to our audience. 12 is actually
there's a moonlight situation here, Oscars.
It's actually the Winnipeg
21.
Jets. Yeah, and I was sweating out. And then it's the Maple Leafs, so then it shoots to Mats. And dude, again, highest points of just being happy about the Leafs in the last decade. Yeah, I think you can put that up against anything. Like truly, I think that's like a John Tavares playoff goal against Tampa Bay Lightning to advance to the second round. That God, when we look back on it, it really did look like they cheered like a Stanley Cup. This is as good as it gets as a fan. Like you can mock that, whatever, but it's such an exhilarating moment, and it's like, man, nobody could be a cynic about this. Like this is not one where if you're a Leaf fan, you could be pouty and be like, well, they're probably going to do, but it's just overwhelming.
You just won.
Yes,
you won a lottery.
Everybody's on the same positive track about this thing. It just felt so good, brother.
And you know what the best part about this is I got home last night from
Bruins
hockey.
Reactions?
I sat on the couch.
Yeah.
The tweets I'm liking.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like the Sens fans, the Vancouver fans. That video that I think it was Farhan Lalji put out of the Vancouver watch party of them being and them crying, rigged. Like I can't get enough. I'm a sick puppy, bud. I'm liking every single tweet, video, Instagram. People are DMing me, rigged. You don't deserve it.
I begged for rig talk. I said yesterday on the show, my dream is
rig it.
My dream is
for McDavid too.
Yeah, everybody online is talking about rig and undeserved for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The commercial break was a little fishy.
Yeah, I'll take it. Like, listen.
I know.
Here's what I would say. I don't want to know. I want the plausible deniability. I don't want to.
72 in blue is gonna look pretty good. I don't care if it's rigged or not.
All I can say is to that element of it, I'm not. I'm being truthful here. I'm not as like I'm not enjoying the misery of the Canucks fans. I'm getting a lot of their messages. They're furious. I'm not. I just don't view it that way. I've said this all along. Vancouver and Toronto is not a rivalry. Toronto does not think about Vancouver that way. Vancouver thinks about Toronto. Like, if Vancouver wins the draft lottery, there's not a sports bar in Toronto where people are crushed that Vancouver got the first overall pick. Like, it's just not a thing. And for them...
The sports bars in Toronto probably didn't have the sound on.
Yeah, but Toronto, it's just not that way. And so I don't like seeing Canucks fans that upset about this. Like, I got a million messages from them that were angry, and I went, okay. Angry. The one that I take real pleasure in is the Bruins stuff.
Totally.
Watching our friend Pete Blackburn melt down and how he's outlining how important it is for the Bruins. And that was the piece of it I didn't really register going into the draft. Was like, first of all, Did you know about the Philly thing until yesterday?
Found out yesterday
on
the show. Live.
Everybody found out yesterday. It was like, oh, I just assumed the way that it worked is Boston gets to eat first. And no, they got to wait. They got to wait for their supper. They're at the front of the line. They got their plate out. And then all of a sudden, the ladle scooper's like, nah, I saw you bud. And they're like, no, we didn't bud. We didn't do anything wrong. It's like, get back to the line. And then
get out of here. Scram.
Flyers move up and just like hold the plate. And they're getting it for Scott Laughton. And now, but the Bruins piece of it that I didn't quantify was, man, David Pastrnak and his age and sort of their idea that they're retooling what the 6th overall pick could be for their timeline.
Yes, man. It was a big one for them.
Yes, dude. And just bumping that back now, what is going to be calendar years before they get that pick. The opportunity for Toronto to stabilize themselves over the next 2 years and improve that draft position and make this trade a little bit better. Also, sneakily, like Minton's playoff performance, which was lacking. It's all coming around, baby.
Couple of pucks entered the net with old 39 on the ice or whatever number he wears there.
It's
couple of pucks entered the net.
It's all coming around. So it just, man, it feels so unbelievably good. Like, and the celebrations and the feeling and just, I'm thrilled for Leafs fans, man. I really am.
Just to have the happiness back. Like we've been pretty happy for 10 years. And like, I do love, we were terrible. Win the draft lottery 9 straight years playoffs, and then they win the draft lottery again. Yeah. I would be so mad if I was. Imagine being a Red Wings fan. They've moved down every year when they tanked. They tanked and moved down every year.
Unbelievable.
Like, pray for Keegan.
Yeah, I don't. I enjoy it. I love it. The Leafs are back. All right, Sam McKee of Leafs Talk. Listen to you later today, bud. Thanks for doing this.
My
See you,
pleasure.
pal.
See you,
all right, quick break. Back into some Raptors talk. Bobby Marks, our friend, he did a big piece on the Raptors free agency and what they're going to do with these contracts. And I got to ask him what he wants to do with them. That's next.
A catastrophic injury changes everything. At Bergmanis Prera, we understand the weight of that burden. I'm founding partner Kurt Bergmanis, and my historic $24.5 million settlement win is no accident. While every case is unique and results will differ, my commitment to maximum compensation remains the same. If you've been seriously injured, call us for a free case evaluation. Bergmanis Prera, because results matter when it matters most. Visit us at bplawyers.ca.
Hey everyone, it's Justin Bourne. When the world outside turned green again, it occurred to me that I wanted to look at it a bit more, but our windows were awfully grimy. As many know, I'm a big fan of Jiffy, and I've seen exterior window cleaning as an option in the app before. It never takes more than a few minutes, and so I placed a quick request. We managed to get them sparkling clear the very next day. Try it yourself. Download the Jiffy app or sign up at jiffyondemand.com and use the code THEFAN for $25 off your first job. Jiffy, Canada's #1 home maintenance app.
I have the test results. Impressive. During those unpredictable weather conditions, the improved Celsius 2 really performed when needed most. Our open country tire got us through tough weather on a variety of terrains with advanced tread design, sipes that really grip. That's a winning lineup.
Toyo has a tire for your vehicle for any road you travel. For a limited time, save even more on select Toyo tires. Ask us for details or go to toyotires.ca. Toyo Tires, making tires for your road.
Today is McHappy Day, when every menu item purchased at McDonald's helps support families with sick children. So you can feel the good that comes from doing good, just from ordering.
So if I order a Big Mac, I'm helping.
Yup.
What about a McFlurry? 10-piece chicken McNuggets and apple pie?
You got it. Every single order helps. Join us at McDonald's today for McHappy Day. A portion of food and beverage sales will help support Ronald McDonald House programs and local children's charities across Canada.
Life's noisy enough. Everything demands your attention. So here's something rare. Ah, silence. It's underappreciated, kind of like Windows from Magic. With retractable bug screens that only appear when you need them, you'll never worry about a dirty screen ever again. While others add to the noise, Magic cuts right through it. Find out more at magicwindow.ca.
The Big Check event is on now at Sport Check. Take up to 60% off clothing, footwear, sports gear, and more from top brands. Online and in-store from April 30th to May 13th. Exclusions apply.
Zero Shed has been constructing sheds for over 30 years. Built right, on site, in just one day. For spring specials, visit Euroshed.ca. That's DURO shed.ca.
CJCL Toronto.
So the Toronto Raptors play an exciting first-round series, and there are a lot of positives that come from that. But as I mentioned, the day after the exit, there now is more pressure to win because there is more proof of concept of the likes of Scotty Barnes. There are more encouraging young players. Colin Murray-Boyles took a step. And they enter an offseason now where patience is going to not be the same as it has been the last few years, the last couple of off seasons. It's been, hey, you know what? You can make the spec trade. You can do this thing. No big deal. The rebuild is over. The now is important. So what the Raptors do next is pretty important considering a bunch of the contracts that they have on the books and a young star in Scotty Barnes where there is urgency to win around him. Bobby Marks is a ESPN front office insider, a former Nets assistant GM, and a friend of the show. What's up, Bobby? How we doing?
I'm good. How we doing?
I'm doing well, minus when I was watching your video, because, again, you do these off-season pieces after every team is exited, and I know that they were killing you this first round because it was going back and forth. You're tearing up pieces. You're having to redo pieces.
Well, the good thing is we only have to worry about a couple teams for the right. We only have 4 teams left, really.
Yeah.
Except for some adjustments with some of the teams that were facing elimination.
That's true. That's true. You did get ahead of your work. But I'm watching your Raptors video, and you pull up the screen on their contract situation, and you pull up Jakob Poeltl in particular. You start circling him.
Yeah, it's a bad contract.
Oh, yeah. No, but I think you made a noise. You're like, ugh. This is tough. This is really tough.
Well, the funny thing is it hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. Oh, I'm aware.
He still has another year left of the original, which is fine, I guess, at 19 and a half. But when he jumped to 27 and change for 2 more years guaranteed and then a partial in that year 3 for a guy that was hurt most of this year and is not, you basically couldn't play him in stretches during the playoffs. That's a problem. That's a problem for you.
Well, here's why it's especially a problem. You mentioned how close the Raptors are to the first apron, right? How close they are to the tax. And how prohibitive that is for teams that are trying to make moves, right? How much that damages your flexibility, not just your finances for ownership, right? Like, this is not the old NBA where it was simply punitive to the team in terms of spending. It is now punitive in terms of your ability to actually make transactions and navigate the salary cap. And so if you're the Raptors, the clear and most obvious move would be to remove Jakob Poeltl simply because of what you just said. He's entering his age 30 season. The contract is not good. You have a younger player in CMB who performed better. You can probably find what Jakob Poeltl provided you for very, very cheap in the free agent market or even the trade market, frankly. But with a contract like that, it requires you to give up assets in order to move off of it, and that might be something tough to swallow for the Raptors. But let's just put it this way. How much do you think it would take to get off of Jakob Poeltl? Because I've heard people make the case that this is now the worst contract extension in the NBA.
At least a really good first.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I think, just going back to, when way back when we did that Celtic trade with Pearson and Garnett, a reason why there were so many picks involved was to get off Gerald Wallace's contract, who was entering year 2 of a 4-year. Back then, $10 million was a lot of money. I think at least a first. Certainly how centers are paid these days, paying $26, $27 million is a high number in future years. And I think that's your, that's the tough part as far as you really want to attach future. You don't have anything else from other teams. You don't have a first from another team. So it's basically your own currency. That's, as I said, that's a problem. I think the other problem too is that there's so many of these guys with these bonuses in their contract. When you look at Quickly and Barrett, Barrett you were traded for, that's a big reason why you're financially hamstrung, is because unlikely bonuses count against the apron. So when you're trying to bring back Sandro, who will likely opt out, you're going to be extremely, extremely challenged unless you clear off some of the money. And of course, you would like it be the Poeltl number to be cleared off. But as you said, that's not an easy way to do.
Well, if you look at where they're drafting this year, if you were even to take that first round pick, which is not in the lottery, right? I think it's going to be 19, 20. I can't remember exactly where it is.
19.
But 19. Yep. Do you think that alone, like that even counts? Because this is a strong strong draft class, but it still is 19. Is that even enough?
Not 19 to get off.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think so. I don't. It's a good draft, and you'll get. I think you'll get somebody good at 19 too. I don't think 19 gets you off. Basically, what, 20, 50, $70+ million in guaranteed money. I don't think so.
Okay, so again, I think we would agree. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but if you were the Raptors and you could just press a button for one change with your roster, it would just be to eliminate this contract. But from an actual tangible standpoint, when you look at this roster, you look at these contracts, you're in the room. I come to you. I'm the new general manager. You're my AGM. I say, Bobby, what do we do first? We're the Toronto Raptors. What is the first priority of this offseason? Realistically, what is the move?
Well, I mean, I think the move is probably looking at what you did in games, the post Ingram games. So what is that? Part of 5, 6, and 7.
Most of 5, yeah.
Yeah, most of 5, and then certainly 6 and 7. And you're looking at that roster and you're saying, like, how do we see Brandon Ingram on it? How do we see him off it? And what else could you get for him? He's got 2 years left on his deal. The second year is a player option for him. So you're going to, eventually you're going to probably be faced with that. I mean, he's still making $39 million here. That's the biggest thing. I think the other biggest thing is like, where your finances are. The Barrett is going, RJ is going to be something that you're going to have to be focused on because he's going into the last year of his contract and he's extension eligible. And besides Scotty, he was probably your second best player, on the court in the Cleveland series here. How does he fit into the future here? And then the other thing too is like you've got a little bit of a dose of when you draft well, what you did with Colin, like really good things happen with that. So how do you kind of build out a little bit more of an infrastructure here? But yeah, they're in an interesting spot because like the hardest thing, and I've said this about a lot of teams, the hardest thing is like getting to that next level, right? Yep. When you win 45, 46 games, you haven't been in the playoffs in 2 or 3 years. Now you win 16 more games. And now there's that expectation. You don't want to kind of do something reckless and then all of a sudden you're taking a step back. In 2 years from now, they're back to winning 25, 30 games. But I do think it probably starts with the Ingram, evaluating how Ingram fits moving forward, who had a good year and he was durable for most of the year until we got to the playoffs here. And then of course the Barrett situation as far as if he's a keeper long term.
If you had to choose between those two guys, like if I just put it plain and simple, we're moving off of one of these two, who would you choose? And the contract matters, like what RJ is going to get paid matters.
No, it does. It does. I mean, I think I'd rather have a player at $27 million than a player at $40 million.
Yep.
I mean, it really, I mean, like, as you know, like things are really slotted these days as far as how the apron rules are and at the CBA and everything like that, where it's hard to have 4 guys making, $30 million plus. Look at Orlando. Orlando's going to go through the same situation this summer, a little bit more expensive with Banchero and Wagner. And then you've got Bane and Suggs and everything like that. But 4 guys making $30 million plus is I know RJ's a little bit less than that, is a tough way to go. If you're going to do a $38 to $40 million guy, you've got to make sure it's the right guy. And as I said, like Brandon had a really good year, but unfortunately, he wasn't available for you in 3 of those last games.
Well, and I think that needs to be factored into this as well, which is like when the Raptors acquired Brandon Ingram, a big piece of the conversation is he going to be able to stay healthy? And he answered that in year 1 for the most part in playing 73 games. But him missing playoffs, I don't think can be just completely tossed out the way it would with a normal player, where you just go, well, you got a little unlucky there. It's like, nah, you probably actually got lucky overall in the season with how many games he was able to play. Then there's also the stylistic piece that we saw a lot more of in regards to what you said about the games without Brandon Ingram. The style of play the Raptors wanted to invoke, which was get out in transition, push the pace, have Scotty Barnes be more heliocentric, open up plays for others. The Raptors' lack of shooting and how that impacted them versus when they have Brandon Ingram on the floor, and it can get a little bit more sticky, a little bit more, hey, Brandon Ingram takes a contested shot late in the clock. So I agree with you. I would personally rather see them extend RJ Barrett at a more reasonable number than what they gave Brandon Ingram and explore Ingram trades. The question is, This is a guy who sat on the trade market for essentially 2 years in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And when he got his free agent contract, the $40 million, his agent said publicly on a podcast for the whole world to consume that contract was not available to them in free agency, or that it would not be available to them in free agency, that the Raptors overpaid.
Yeah.
So if you try to move Brandon Ingram, what is his value?
It's a good question. I mean, you'd want something back, but at $9 million less. So you'd want like a $30 million or two $15 million players. You're right. I mean, New Orleans went through it for most of that season. Certainly he was hurt. And what you saw was they got a future. They got a first. It was the Indiana first, I think, right?
It
that
is.
wound up that ironically ended up turning into them making a worse trade, but that's a story for a different day. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a $38 million guy in this marketplace is not as appealing and everything like that. And then do you want to extend him? He's got the player option and everything like that. So it's not like you're going to flip him and get multiple firsts for him. Can you? I always say, and I've said this throughout the playoffs. Playoffs breed desperation for teams that lose. They might see Brandon Ingram differently than maybe Toronto potentially does. But we'll see. I mean, there'll eventually be a market of players out there that maybe he needs to be included in as far as in a bigger deal.
Yeah, that's the way. I guess my hope would be in an Ingram trade that one of these other teams that's feeling that similar urgency evaluates him a little differently with their group, right? Like a Denver got knocked out. Do you explore a trade with them? Houston, who got knocked out unceremoniously and now faces big picture questions. Can you have a conversation with a team like that? Because if you're in a rebuild and you're trying to take a step, I don't think you want to make the same, and frankly, mistake the Raptors did in trading a first-round pick that ends up being something of value for Ingram. And if you're a contender, I'm not sure what you want to give off of your roster in order to acquire a player like that you also believe helps you win now. So I think that that one kind of is tricky as well. All of this being said, the point you made about making the desperation trade is the number one thing I'm hoping the Raptors avoid, which is, and not to write this one off in its immediacy because it's only year one, but I look at what the Orlando Magic did with Desmond Bane, where it's four first-round picks? Yeah. 4 first-round picks for a player like Desmond Bane who has a limited ceiling, and it was a pretty up and down year. If you're the Raptors, I really don't want to make we're doing this deal to move off of a Jakob Poeltl, but then 2 years from now we're looking back and saying, wow, they really hurt themselves from a picks and prospect standpoint to kind of end up making a lateral move upwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, certainly, every trade is circumstantial based on the player. Desmond Bane gets more for Anthony Davis or Trae Young or even probably Luka to that point.
Not probably, definitely.
That most definitely. It's New York. You could say Mikal Bridges, what they did with the Nets trade here, and Bridges has had his moments there, but you never want to be kind of in a hole where you kind of go into your pocket to pull out a first round pick and there's nothing in there. There's nothing left except for quarters and dimes and everything like that. So you have to be when you do it, as I always say, you got to be right, because if you don't, it could certainly set you back a bit.
Last one. I know you're a little pressed for time today. Our Michael Grange reported Grady Dick would be amenable to a trade, which is kind of obvious considering he doesn't play at all. So of course he would want to be open to a trade. What do you think his value is, though? Because some teams you could at least still make the case that he's young and he was the 13th overall pick and there is some level of pedigree to buy low, but I would imagine it's not very high.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, he's going into last year of his rookie contract here. I think for Toronto, it would really be just to get off his money. Hard to say if you have to incentivize a team to take that back. I mean, there's a little more flexibility with money this summer as far as teams amendable to do that here. And I think I think a lot of it goes back to evaluating him back when he was in college and when he came into the league right off the bat. That's kind of where you rely on your personnel guys. Now, getting off that money would certainly open up a little more doors for you as far as where you are with the apron and the tax.
Bobby Marks, again, ESPN front office insider. Great work. I'm really thrilled that as stressful as it was, you did get a lot of the work done ahead of time. I think
We
there's
got a lot more work to do, especially with the draft coming up, and we got a full pack schedule.
Yeah, I'll be circling back with you then and bothering
we'll talk after Chicago. We'll come back and talk draft.
100%. Thanks for making time, Bobby. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Be well,
Talk
man.
to you. Thank you.
Bobby Marks, ESPN and former Nets GM. So I'm really not trying to be doom and gloom about this at all, because I think that the Raptors' overwhelming takeaway is positive from this year. They upped their games. They got to get into a playoff series, and the goal of that playoff series was to discover more of who they are. And to me, it actually feels pretty conclusive. It isn't like, hey, Brandon Ingram coming back is actually going to elevate the ceiling of this group to the point where they're going to win a championship with the younger players. Like, stylistically, the fit is tough. The questions that we had going in about the injuries and big moments, the style of play, and the consistency of what he can do offensively, those were all on full display. I don't think he's a fit. I would be trying to explore deals this offseason, and frankly, I'd be willing to take a step back. I also think that this is going to be hard for some people to hear, and I'm guessing a lot will still push back given that he made the All-Star team this year. But that trade was a miss. If they could have a redo, you would want the Pacers pick. Like if you called the Pacers tomorrow and said, hey, we want that pick for Brandon Ingram, they would laugh you out of the room. And even going back a little further, wouldn't you feel better if they had Siakam than Ingram? Like if they had just kept Siakam, would you feel better too? It begs the question of paying OG Anunoby instead of having Quickly and RJ. Like there's a couple of these moves that actually really did hurt the Raptors for where they're at right now, the way that they dealt off of the old core. And that's before getting to the Jakob Poeltl thing that I've already gone over a million different times. Now they've got to kind of work their way out of that. And to me, it would be, let's try to make sure we are a pace team that is more of Scotty Barnes' team offensively now. He can't carry the load every single night. I think that Quickly is a good keep at a bye and not trying to get panicky and move off of him. Was he a perfect player this season? No. I think it was a good year. It was a little bit of an underrated year. Is he a little overpaid? In Bobby's piece that he put up on YouTube, did he say that the Raptors would be able to move off that easily? No, as well. Like he's $32.5 million for not a top, what? Where would you place him right now in the NBA amongst guards? It's a lot lower than you probably first thought of when you went in your mind's eye, and for someone that they like built in was going to be the future of this organization. But if they lose next year in the first round, it's not going to be viewed as, hey, this is just one big celebration. It won't. That's done. That era of Raptors basketball has closed with this group. They returned to the playoffs. They played admirably. There were a lot of good takeaways from the Walters and the CMBs and the Sheds and the Barnes. But the big guys, the big ticket items were missing and lacking. Personally, based on the way that Bobby's discussing Jakob Poeltl and the rest of the league is, I just don't see how you move off of him. Because if it costs you more than the 19th overall pick in a strong draft, that gets into untenable territory. The only way you do that is if you're making a move for somebody that actually makes you a championship level team. Truly. Like, that's kind of the echelon you've got to be in when you're trading multiple first-round picks, multiple assets from the cupboards for a team that isn't quite there yet and looks like they might be better with the younger core than with the older guys. I think RJ Barrett acquitted himself very well. Again, like the Quickly piece, I don't think a perfect player, but somebody who fits what the Raptors want to do a little bit more, someone who's bought into being in Toronto, someone who I don't like doing the hometown discount thing, and a lot of times it doesn't really materialize. But if you told me, hey, is RJ Barrett willing to take maybe $1 million or $2 million less than, or are they more likely to win on the RJ Barrett contract than they have with some of these other ones? I would say, yeah, I feel like there's a better shot of that. I do. So you start to circle Poeltl, desperation, move off of that deal, but you're not really getting anything back, or Ingram. And to me, it's Ingram. You are being fairly aggressive this offseason, and if you're not, I believe it's a mistake in trying to offload this contract. Because there's also another scenario here. Like, if you're pushing back and go, man, if they had Ingram in those games, maybe they win that series. Yeah, I don't think they win a championship. If you keep Brandon Ingram and the injuries do pop up again, and he does have that player option, now you are looking at a more untradeable contract. And I don't believe that there's going to be a ceiling change going into next year. Like, he made the All-Star team this season. Do you think that the year is going to be better than it was this year? Like the odds wise, just playing percentages. Do you think that it's more likely Brandon Ingram is going to have a better season than he did when he played 73 games, made an all-star team, or a worse season after he exited with that injury as he's another year older and we saw a little bit more of the problems with the style fit? Like, I would argue it is with almost a certainty the latter. More likely that it is a worse season. So do you want to paint yourself into a corner where all of a sudden a year from now he's opting into a player contract at that kind of a number that teams just don't even, they won't consider it unless there is an asset attached to it? To me, the time is kind of now to move off of Ingram. It makes a lot of sense. The trade was fine. It's not a disaster. He did help them get to the postseason. He does deserve credit for that. The playoff games that he played in, if he's got the heel issue, and it was a bad look, but I don't think that that's the only reason why I'm doing it is like, I just think that Brandon Ingram can't play basketball anymore. No, I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's a very good fit for this team from a contract standpoint or a style of play standpoint and a risk standpoint. That those three things would be all working together to say, if you're going to make a move this year, have it be that one. Not the Pirtle trade, not the Quickly trade. Maybe the RJ trade. I'm still more open-minded to that because he is he's an expiring contract. In a league that covets that, he makes less money, and if you could turn him into a couple of really good pieces and build around these other guys, I'm not saying that there's a 0% chance that could work out for you. But if the play is simply down to those two guys, I think it would be a mistake to lose out on RJ Barrett to keep Brandon Ingram. And that long term, we'd be looking at that and going, wish we had it all back. Quick break, come back, do some Jays thoughts and what we missed.
We are your home for Toronto Blue Jays baseball. Hear all the action across the Sportsnet radio network, streaming on the Sportsnet app, and at sportsnet.ca/590.
In big league baseball, things happen fast, like a 100-mile-per-hour fastball coming right at you. But don't just take our word for it. Here's George Springer.
To swing or not to swing, seeing the ball quickly and clearly as it leaves the pitcher's hand is so important. It's how you decide if it's a ball or a strike or one that's ready to go out of the park.
Thanks, George. That kind of vision is something we call high-performance vision. The Bachner Eye Institute is the official laser and eye center of the Toronto Blue Jays. Google Bachner Eye Institute today.
At Real Canadian Superstore, get boneless, skinless chicken breast for only $4.99 a pound. Plus, get it delivered with your first-year PC Express Pass at just $2.50 per month. Conditions apply. Details at superstore.ca/flyer.
Every great goal starts with a great assist. And on the road, that assist is Yokohama. This season, upgrade your ride with confidence. For a limited time, get an up to $125 rebate when you purchase 4 select Yokohama tires. Plus, enter the Play Hard, Drive Safe contest for your chance to win $400 in hockey gear every week. More grip, more control, more confidence for every drive. Yokohama, play hard, drive safe.
Save the date. On May 9th, Lotto's 649 Super Draw is back with 40 guaranteed prizes of $25,000. Plus the classic $5 million jackpot and the growing Gold Ball jackpot. You could find your possible. It's all happening on May 9th. So get your tickets for the Lotto's 649 Super Draw, because with so many guaranteed prizes, somebody's gonna win. It could be you.
At Subway, we like to ask, how spicy do you want to be?
So, tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
Yo! Subway's new Wannabe Spicy menu. 3 subs from mild piri-piri ranch chicken to wild hot honey chicken, all the way to wicked Nashville-style deli. Freshly prepared on our new ghost pepper bread. Just tell us which one you really, really want.
I want to really, really, really want a zig.
Sounds good. Want to make it a combo?
How spicy do you want to be? Subway, eat fresh, feel good. Freshly prepared, limited time at participating restaurants.
I have the test results. Impressive. During those unpredictable weather conditions, the improved Celsius 2 really performed when needed most. Our open country tire got us through tough weather on a variety of terrains with advanced tread design, sipes that really grip. That's a winning lineup.
Toyo has a tire for your vehicle for any road you travel. For a limited time, save even more on select Toyo tires. Ask us for details or go to toyotires.ca. Toyo Tires, making tires for your road.
Hey, check this out. Thanks to my grocery picks this month, I'm saving $100.
Check this out. Thanks to my switch to Desjardins Insurance, I'm saving almost $1,000. It was pretty easy.
Switch, and you could save up to $1,000 when you bundle home and auto. Get insurance that's really big on care. Desjardins Insurance, here for your home, auto, life, and business needs. Certain conditions apply.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it today at carsforkids.ca. That's cars with a K. Donation's super easy, and you'll get a maximum tax credit.
1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Is your back pain back again? Sleep Country knows that when your mattress is practically an antique, it can be a real pain in the back, neck, and other places. So if you're not getting the support you need, it's time for a change. The Time to Switch event is on now at Sleep Country, where you can get up to 20% off mattresses, sheets, duvets, and more. Hurry and soon.
For the love of sleep, Canada, just do it.
Restrictions apply. Speak to a sleep expert for details.
When one premium hot dog just won't do, why not have a few?
All-you-can-eat premium hot dogs are now at St. Louis Bar and Grill for just $14.99.
Why not enjoy it with a Budweiser?
Dine-in only, taxes extra. There's always room for more.
Enjoy $5 plus tax McValue breakfast meals at McDonald's every day. Like a sausage McMuffin or breakfast burrito with a hash brown and a small coffee. Only $5 every day. Plus taxes. Available until 11 a.m. at Canadian restaurants. Product availability varies. Prices exclude delivery.
Hi there, it's Justin Bourne. About a year ago, I found myself like many of you out there with just a couple weeks to go before Mother's Day and stressing about what to get my own wonderful mother. I was chatting about it with a coworker when another overheard us and mentioned Aura frames, and to this day, it's the most success I've ever had with a present. These digital frames let your mom relive all the great times you've had together in the past, and if you're like me and don't live close, it can keep your mom up to date with a steady stream of new pics of the grandkids and life in general. The best part is you can even preload it with pictures, so the second she pulls the frame from the premium gift box, it's ready to go. It's a solid upgrade from the usual flowers. Named number 1 by Wirecutter, you can save on the gifts moms love by visiting auraframes.ca. For a limited time, listeners can get $25 off their best-selling Carver mat frame with code JUSTIN. That's auraframes.ca, promo code JUSTIN. Support the station by mentioning Justin from SN590 at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
As Canada stares down economic uncertainty, we're ready with a plan to protect Ontario. We're fighting to defend every job, building new nuclear facilities, speeding up approvals, diversifying our trade, bringing opportunity and good jobs home. Because this province doesn't just sit back, we build. That's how we protect Ontario. Learn more at ontario.ca/protectontario. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Tune in to Real Kyper and Bourne for Game Time, presented by Bet365, only on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Play responsibly. Visit connectsontario.ca.
I'm Erica, and I'm one of over 4 million Canadians that got a Capital One credit card. Nothing prepares you for being a victim of identity fraud. It damaged my credit. As a nurse, I'm used to helping people, but now I was the one who needed help. With Capital One, I rebuilt my credit. They helped me get my life back.
With Capital One, getting credit is just the start. See which card is right for you. Get started at CapitalOne.ca.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.ca/Canada. That's ziprecruiter.ca/Canada.
Colin and Justin help homeowners start fresh in Nova Scotia. Watch the season premiere of Small Town Escapes with Colin and Justin tonight at 8/7 Central on HGTV or stream it on City TV+.
Sportsnet 590, The Fan.
She's up all night to the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night
little bit brighter today. Every time I take a peek at my phone, it's another person expressing joy and another from a fan base that is furious about the Toronto Maple Leafs landing the first overall pick. That's sort of where the Leafs are supposed to be, by the way, in the ecosystem of the NHL. You don't want anybody happy for them. You don't want anybody being able to understand what this year was and go, yeah, that is fairly deserved considering everything that did happen. You want it to be this way. I've been on record with this take for a decade now, that one of the sweetest things about the Leafs getting Matthews and Marner and Nylander and having the early successes was feeling like the Leafs were an evil empire again, that people were rooting against them rather than the worst thing in sports, which is when people pity you and go, I think the league is better when the Leafs are good. That's the worst thing someone can say to you. It's honestly the best chirp. It really is. It's so much better than just trying to, he was like what did the Sens fans, Matthews leaving, like, that's not nearly as bad as when you get pity from rivals, cities that you root against, saying that it's nice when you're relevant again. Oof, no, thank you. So I'm going to have Ennis in tomorrow, and I'll discuss this with him a little further, but just a quick note on the Blue Jays before we jump into what we missed, which is simply, God, yesterday was a crusher, and the offense didn't really give the team any wiggle room. I get that, but whenever it's Roger, like if it's Rogers giving it up and the way he gives it up, where it's just infield hits, infield dribblers that make their way through, and you get all the way to the 8th inning with a lead, and you need it. You can just feel that same pressure starting to build up with the Blue Jays of like they win those couple series, and it's like, okay, the fog is lifting a touch here. They're getting back to normal. Some of the guys are coming back healthy. Now you deal with the Barrios news. Springer just, again, it's just really tough watching him play, knowing he's got a broken toe and that there's just 0% chance this isn't going to be impacting him for quite some time. Kirk is still a little ways away, and you're watching Valenzuela, a guy who I'm a fan of, but make just too many tough mistakes in that ball game yesterday. For him to the getting picked off at second base and trying to tag up, yuck, disgusting, can't have it. He had an opportunity with a pick off of his own. He throws to the wrong side of the base, but it just isn't a good enough throw for Jimenez to be able to apply a tag. Yeah, it's just a rough night for him. And then, yeah, the Blue Jays lose it. Now they need to go 17-11 the rest of the month in order to be one game above 500 heading into June. And the reason why I think that's important is the season over in June? No, obviously not. You still just want to be around it, be in the wild card picture. There's not a lot of teams that are just completely taken off and lighting the world on fire. It looks like a very flat league. The Yankees, you're terrified of in terms of the 4-game series and just their ability to run away with it in May. But, yeah, June was always kind of the marker for the baseball community saying, don't get too worked up about the injuries or the slow start or the offense or how somebody's looking now or what the health is if you can survive it. Just get to June and be around be 500 or above 500. And now to be above 500 in June, again, 17-11. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. But you do have the Yankees. You do have the Tigers. You're going to have an important series with the Orioles this month. Like, there's a lot of work to be done for the Blue Jays, and they are kind of getting to the point where it's, you just can't have too many series like this. You just can't. Where you're blowing leads and your offense just continues to just not be able to produce runs. Okamoto, that feels great. Everything about him feels awesome right now. The defense yesterday, he just continues to hit and look like a totally different guy at the plate. And I will say this too. I want to know from someone who knows better than I do, because eye test-wise, I see Kevin Gossman's velocity look great, and he didn't have a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he allowed 2 runs. But he now has, I believe, 8 strikeouts over his last 3 outings. Nearly half of his strikeouts this season, I think just about half, came in his first 2 outings. He had big punch-out numbers. This is a strikeout guy. And he's not striking out batters the same way. Maybe it's just a blip. Maybe it's just a 4-game slip-up or a 5-game dip for this guy. But it is notable that the strikeout numbers have dropped off like this in terms of, that being pretty damn important for this guy. and his successes. Anyways, Brandon Brown is here. What did we miss?
Well, it seems like the curse of the Tropicana Field seems to be back now that the Rays are back there playing, and the Jays, obviously their first series there.
Do you have their winning percentage there?
I do, yeah. So the Jays all-time at the Trop are now 92 and 146 for a 38.7% winning percentage there. So not great historically there at that event venue. But John Schneider was asked about it after Monday's loss, and he said, it's not the building, it's not the turf, the roof, the lights, not anything. The Rays are just a good team, and we've got to play better. So do you subscribe to that, or do you feel like there is something about playing down in Florida and Tampa there?
I understand why he's saying what he's saying. Like I do. You don't want that in your players' heads, and you just want it to be.
Yeah.
Baseball players are superstitious. Ernie Clement uses different players' bats because he thinks there's hits in them.
And he did the mustache and then immediately got rid of it.
Exactly. So John Schneider just saying immediately, no such thing as ghosts. No such thing as ghosts. It's not the building. It's just they're a good team. Let's just go out there. Totally understand it. My viewpoint is there's something about it. There's just something about it. There's something about when they go down there. It's a mindset thing, and that's how all of this stuff works, right? Is you put yourself in that headspace, and it's there. And it's a collective. It's the Blue Jays fans who travel, and, God, there's more Blue Jays games at those Tampa games than Tampa fans
Absolutely.
For the most part. It's just that building, there's something about it. You go down there, and it's how many times when it's a pivotal point of the season, and it's a trip to the Trop, and you're a Blue Jays fan, and you look at the schedule, and you see those games, you go, just don't get swept. Just don't get embarrassed down there. And, yeah, Tampa's had some really good teams over that stretch, but this year the Toronto Blue Jays are supposed to be much better than them, and you'd like to see some wins, and I just don't feel as confident when they face them down there. And I would imagine that some of the players that have been around this long enough, I don't think Okamoto's thinking about that.
No.
I think he's showing up and he's like, yeah, it's just another baseball team. Yeah. But if you're the Vladdies or you're the Gospins and you've been around for a little bit and you're going down to the Trop and you're always kind of thinking hey, we struggle down here. I bet it's in their heads a little bit. And I'll ask Cliff Floyd that this week about just teams you just struggle against and how it actually impacts you and whether there's anything tangible to it. But yeah, it's just kind of hard to dismiss that sample size of them getting dominated by the Rays and having it be that way with a divisional opponent who is not always a more loaded organization than you and does kind of have blips of being competitive and being a stronger team in baseball rather than just sustained success like the Yankees do. Yeah, just it's annoying. I hate it.
Well, and even in you'd think the last 10 years when you probably would view the Jays as a better team, historically over that time, 29 and 51 since 2016. So even in the last, handful or 10 years when they've had really good teams, the Rays haven't been maybe as strong. They still just have trouble going down there and winning games. So
I want to know what the record was when they had to go play at the Yankees Spring Stadium.
George Steinbrenner Field, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point.
I need those numbers. I need because if it's strong against the Rays in George Steinbrenner Field, I'm immediately accepting that the curse is real and just having those games be write-offs.
So 2025, they went 2-5 there. So they lost.
So it's just they go play the Rays and the Rangers just own them. They just have their number. Yeah. God, it's so annoying. All right, what's next?
So I think we should dive into maybe a little bit more of the Jose Barrios saga there. What's going on? You mentioned it just off the top there, but he had some imaging done yesterday. We're waiting for that to come out and see exactly what's going on. But had 2 back-to-back starts with Buffalo that weren't so good. He seemed to be healthy at the beginning of the season. There was that whole trouble with the WBC. Thought he was going down there. Seemed like there was something in his physical. Where are you kind of at with Barrios? Do you see him joining the rotation at any point this year?
It's getting hard to.
Yeah.
He's someone who already had a fracture in his elbow, had ramped himself up, got shut down, had to work his way back up, struggles, and immediately he's getting imaging done. And I would just have to think that someone who's already got an injury, having to have that happen is not it's not a great sign. Speaking of things that are cursed, like the Blue Jays pitching staff from an injury standpoint, to lose Cody Ponce, to have Max Scherzer have to deal with multiple injuries, that's a little bit more explainable at 42 years old. To be waiting on Bieber, to see Lauer just lose some velocity and lose some stuff. And yeah, just it's weird because you feel great about the way that they've pitched overall. Like, pitching has definitely not been one of the problems of this baseball team. They've been able to survive a lot of this. But, yeah, Lauer, the way that he was going, it became sort of conclusive looking, hey, Barrios is going to come back up here and replace him. And maybe you can get something from someone who's consistent. You could talk yourself into Barrios having a bounce-back season. And now, yeah, like, I'm not going to write him off before I know what the imaging is. I think that's kind of a tough thing to do. Maybe they do come back and say, yeah, it's a little bit of a rest. We're going to shut him down for 15 days and then try to build him back up and keep that door open. But what I would say is it's getting pretty hard to envision him impacting the ball club this year in a overwhelmingly positive way, right? Like,
yeah,
this was already someone that you kind of were supposed to put down as maybe not being on the playoff rotation in the first place when this team is fully healthy. And now I would be thinking, weirdly, if the Blue Jays were heading to the trade deadline, one of the big, beautiful things of this offseason was that you looked at it and said, well, they're not going to have to be in the starting pitching market. Like, they're not going to have to trade for another Shane Bieber.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have their guys. They're going to have Dylan Cease. They're going to have Kevin Gausman. They're going to have Shane Bieber. They're going to have Cody Ponce, who you're really hopeful in that this is going to translate in a way. And Barrios was like a luxury item. It was hey, you're trying to get something out of this. You look at the contract, kind of immovable. You might just have to end up eating this thing. And yeah, if I do. I feel bad for the guy. I know people think I have like a vendetta against him because I wanted him moved after he didn't show up for the World Series. But no, I don't care. Like, by all accounts, Barrios is a great guy. And for a good portion, he was a solid Blue Jay. I really hoped that he could come up and contribute with this team. I really wanted him to. But now it's hard to maintain that hope given everything we know now, from the elbow, having to leave last season, now dealing with this for what is closer to a year.
Feels that way, yeah.
Yeah, because he started to struggle and he started to feel this thing midway through last season. So you put 2 and 2 together with all of that, and it's kind of a tough. It's tough to look at it and say things are going to get a lot better here. All right, what's next?
Some interesting news coming out of the Argos and BMO Field. It seems like after the World Cup, they're going to be doing kind of an all-you-can-eat concession option at Argos games this year. The home opener, August 6th. You can get in the building and get this all-you-can-eat situation for $40 a ticket. Armin joked earlier it might be worth just going for the food.
You can get the ticket and the food for $40?
$40 for the ticket and the all-you-can-eat concessions.
Oh, yeah. Count me in. Here's the thing. I didn't need that to go to an Argos game because I already love going to Argos games.
Yeah.
I do. Like, I've said this, and I'll say it again. The best bang for your buck ticket in the entire city is the Toronto Argonauts. Have been really competitive these last couple of years, ended up winning a Grey Cup, or have been a talented team, a well-coached team, an enjoyable team. CFL has always been a bit of a struggle translating to television for people in this market because we watch a ton of NFL, and I've said this, and I'll say it again. It's an event city. People want the best in Toronto. They're not really interested in the secondary leagues. It is the way that it is. That's why, how many people know what the series is right now with Laval and the Marlies?
Not many.
It's 2-2.
Yeah.
It's 2-2. They just had a game where they beat them. They're the 4 seed. They're playing the 1 seed. They lost last night, but the prior game was like Easton Cowan scored, and they played a really good game. And I don't think that there's a single person in the city having a conversation about what Easton Cowan's doing in playoff hockey for the AHL franchise. That is as accessible as it gets from a financial standpoint and an access standpoint in the city. And the Argos suffer that from a television standpoint. And I just wish more people went to these games because I think if you go to a CFL game, you watch the Toronto Argonauts play, you go to a rivalry game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, you go to a playoff game and you endure some of the elements and you sit there and you watch football, you're going to know it's an awesome product at a great price. So the fact that they're given this promotion, like, I'm all in. I can't. I do my best. I do my very best to tell people about the Toronto Argonauts. And here's the other part of it too. I've had many friends, acquaintances, go, I'm going to an Argos game, or I'm thinking about going to an Argos game, and then they go. And is the conversation? That was kind of boring, or I didn't have a very good time, or like, the traffic was nuts, and we tried to. It's always, wow, that was so fun. Like, yeah, I know. I'm aware. And maybe it is through some promotions. Maybe it is through some giveaways that some more people are trying to get into the state. Maybe this does appeal to some people because they're like, hell, you can take your kids or your family or some people, your friends to a ball game and be able to eat and go watch a product for $40. unbelievable in this economy. So, yeah, like maybe this works. I hope it does because I hate seeing empty seats at those games, especially when the team is good and they deserve eyeballs and attention. And so, yeah. And some people go like, well, JD, you don't talk about CFL enough on the show. I'm like, yeah, because there's just not enough interest level in it. Most people don't know what I'm talking about. Most people don't end up having a real investment in the team. But yeah, I love the Argos. I can't wait to go to some of these games. I'm even going to go watch them playing Guelph this year. Like I'm gonna make the trek while the World Cup is here and go to some games out there and see what it looks like. And I'm excited for when they return to BMO and they have these promotions, and hopefully the city is willing to embrace them a little bit more because it's an awesome product.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like with the World Cup, there might be some buildup in terms of the hype because, like you said, they're going to be playing home games. I think in Hamilton and in Regina because the World Cup will be taken over BMO. So yeah, people will be excited for when they come back. And there's also the I think the CNE promotion I think is always huge every year. People go down, check out the CNE, and then they get the mixed ticket for the Argos game as well. So always a good chance to get people involved there. But you're right, it should be fun. I should mention that they're going to be taking the Blue Jays lead in doing dollar hot dogs as well, I believe, on specific nights. So
why wouldn't you? Everybody should do
everybody
should do loony dogs. Like it just it's an undeniably successful promotion and it works in this city. People love loony dogs. All right, what's next?
Only one game in the NHL last night. We had the Avs beat the Wild in Colorado, taking a 2-0 lead. Avs look really strong. They're looking like the number one contender in my mind for the Stanley Cup. Anything jump out to you? I think Nathan McKinnon scored again, his fourth goal in the playoffs. They just look like they're on their way to another Cup
and
finally.
Not just the skill and the speed, but also the physicality that they're playing with in the series, right? Like Quinn Hughes getting crunched multiple times, one big hit by Nathan McKinnon in this game. And they through 2 games, long series, but through 2 games, there just seems to be a real pedigree difference between these two groups. The Avalanche look better than any team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that includes the Carolina Hurricanes, who look great.
Yeah.
The Avs at this point, in this moment in time, May 6th, it feels like it would be a disappointment if they didn't win a Stanley Cup, period. That's how good they look. That's how badly they're beating. Well, and again, Minnesota made the comeback, and it was a really wild first game. I get that, no pun intended. But the Avs just look deeper, stronger, better, more skilled, more physical, better coached, all these different things than a lot of these other teams. So what really sticks out to me, though, about the Avs in this moment is how well built they are.
Yeah.
How it's like a team that had McKinnon and Makar that faced those questions from a build standpoint, salary-wise. How they've just been able to supplement their talent with great moves, how they got off guys at the right time, where they've made savvy decisions in trades, that they've acquired the right pieces and gave guys good contracts that have worked out for them, like the Brock Nelson moves. And it's like, there's a way of doing this. You know, if you're the Oilers or you're the Maple Leafs and you acquired this level of talent, and I know I shouldn't compare them because the Oilers went to Stanley Cup finals, but not to diminish what the Edmonton Oilers have done, but if the Leafs were in the West, I am a believer that they would have gone deeper over the course of their tenure there.
Sure.
Like when we do the direct comparisons to two, and yes, Draisaitl, McDavid, completely different playoff dogs than what the Maple Leafs have had. My point is just simply being, if the Oilers were out east, I'm not sure they make it to Stanley Cup finals. Maybe not, but whatever. Who cares? That's irrelevant in this conversation. The point is, both of those teams did not build well around their stars. Do the Stars in Toronto deserve more criticism than the Stars in Edmonton? Yes, absolutely they do. But the way that the Avalanche have been able to sustain the success, they've had playoff disappointments, huge ones.
Yeah.
Man, how ugly was it when Rantanen's eliminating you right after you trade him? Like, you look like bozos. It was a horrendous look. Everyone just put it down in pen, like, what a mistake to give up on this talent. And now you see, like, part of the byproduct of that is that they were able to go get a Nazem Kadri at the trade deadline, that they're able to have Brock Nelson, that the team... You look at their lines, you look at their blue line, you look at the fact that they made savvy moves in net to go out and be like, yeah, we're going to retool this. We're going to do it on the fly. We're going to get new guys in here. It's so impressive to see. Not only did you get these stars, that's a gift. That's a true gift to be able to pick at the top of the lottery, get the Nathan McKinnons, get the Cale Makars of the world, but to translate that into their entire era feeling like they could win Stanley Cups and make moves, aggressive moves, scary moves. Trading Rantanen is a scary move. And coming out on the other side of that and not having it feel like a disaster and looking like one of the best teams in hockey, as these guys do hit, McKinnon in his 30s, Makar late 20s, it's super impressive. It really is. It should be lauded. It should be talked about more. And their front office probably doesn't get as much credit as they deserve, just because narratively it does go to those other guys first, which makes sense. It is, and it's not a primary focus market for here. We do Canadian teams first, and teams that are in your division kind of second, or especially teams that are on the East Coast. Like, you get way more Sabres conversation this year than you got Colorado Avalanche conversation. You get way more Montreal Canadiens. You get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But they should be lauded for the way that they are built. It is incredible, and it is a real achievement. And yeah, it sets them apart from the rest of these teams that also have top-tier talent.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of talk about Vegas too, like the way that they've built their roster, so many traded players, very few, homegrown talent. But I think the Avs are a similar situation where it's like you pick a few guys at the top of the draft that you see as your core, and then you spend the rest of your time trying to figure out what fits perfectly in between.
But Vegas also had some things that were like advantageous.
Of course, and they started their tenure started
the way
very
they
well,
started and the way that they wrote the rules for an expanding team helped them more than the league obviously realized.
Yeah.
Then there is their division, and then there also is the state tax stuff where guys want to go there. They're willing to take less money. They've been more flexible to be able to do that. Like, it's a market that has really worked for NHL players.
Yeah.
Colorado doesn't have those same advantages, and we just don't do the same thing where it goes to like, oh, well, they're capped out and now the ceiling or the window is closing. They've been able to extend this window into those big contracts, which is such an impressive feat, and have, again, depth where you don't look at their roster and go, all these guys were lottery ticket players. Wow, this actually broke their way. What a tremendous fluke this was, because that happens with some teams. None of their stuff feels fluky. We got to talk about Masai before we close out the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So Masai spoke, I think it was yesterday, for the first time
to the media
as the president, alternate governor of the Mavs. What were your thoughts about his press conference and obviously his hiring in general?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will always root for Masai Ujiri. How could you not? Like, not just what he did for the city from a basketball standpoint, but I've mentioned this countless times when discussing him. I think that in terms of reshaping the identity of the Toronto Raptors, it wasn't just the championship. It wasn't just being competitive. It was the way Masai carried himself in this city. And it is the believe in Toronto stuff. It is the F Brooklyn moments. It is like all of those things with Masai, the way that he spoke about this place was so different than anybody else. Like, how many people like to try to use excuses when they talk about a place where they go, well, we got these limitations. And look at the Maple Leafs, for example, right? The Maple Leafs have done this thing year over year where people around them talk about the pressures of the market and how difficult it is with the spotlight on you and with your family, and go on down the line. Masai never said a word about how it was challenging to attract free agents as a Toronto Raptors general manager and then president. He never once tried to make excuses for any part of being the only Canadian franchise in a sport. It was just confidence about the city of Toronto. Believe in Toronto. Believe in the Toronto Raptors. We'll win here or we'll win again. I wish he would have gotten an opportunity to win again. I think that he made a bunch of tough moves, especially like I mentioned the Siakam trade. I mentioned the OG deal, getting Acapurto. Like, he was involved in a lot of this stuff. The post-2020 season was a lot of misses for this organization. Norman Powell trade, like, go on down the line, brother. You can find a lot of these examples. There was a reason to think you could move off of Masai Ujiri. And I'm not saying that I would want to go back and maybe change those things, but it's like I want to see Masai do well. I root for Masai. I like Masai. I don't certainly wish any kind of ill will on him. This is not at all a relationship like Toronto had with Kyle Dubas when he left, and you go to Pittsburgh and you're like, please don't win. Like, please, please, please.
Yeah.
But it's just something about like, yeah, Masai is Toronto's guy. And if he wins with Dallas, and now he's got Cooper Flagg, and he's got all this flexibility to build around like a true one-of-one superstar, there's like a possibility where he has a huge legacy there as well, and he becomes kind of a Dallas guy, and he closes out his career there. And it's just like, it's a little uncomfortable. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I'm happy for him. You don't want to hold someone down and have them just be like, oh, but you're only Toronto's person. But it's like, yeah, like, seeing Masai Ujiri win a championship, I think most people would be pretty happy, and I would too, if he won one with the Dallas Mavericks. But it would also feel like, that was our guy. We let him go, and then if he goes on to have more successes, and you have to wonder whether or not you should have just kept him. Like, there was a moment where I thought that Masai Ujiri was going to be here as long as they could keep him, and that the only way out was if he was actually leaving to pursue a job that was in either another sport or another like arena entirely. So yeah, it's a little complicated. I was getting the feels. He's given those quotes like one king left, another king arrives, or we got a prince, and I'm
So
like,
good.
God, I miss the quotes. Man, I miss the fire and the passion beside Jerry. Anyway, we're back tomorrow. We'll see you then.
From Susan, a nurse who thought she'd never be able to afford a home. From Mike, a framer who was afraid he'd have to retire his tool belt for good. From all the home buyers and builders in Ontario, we'd like to thank the Ontario and federal governments. Recent changes reduce or eliminate the sales tax on new homes. This makes new homes more affordable, helps protect 100,000 jobs, and grows our economy. There's never been a better time to